it's like about a week after I finished my last vlog, which was like an April-ish vlog. But like, actually it's not true, I think it's maybe less than a week, I guess. But I just kind of wanted to start a new one because like this one, at least at the beginning, is gonna have me reading things and like receiving things that are like fun and like not so stressful about deadlines. So I kind of, yeah, I wanted to just like do that to like show little snippets of like what I'm gonna like sort of me taking a break, I guess, for a little bit. So yeah, I have finished beret to show, and I also am hoping to do a bit more knitting during this month. I really would like to finish the cardigan I'm currently knitting. In terms of like book updates and stuff, so I haven't made very much progress with this, but I would say I'm about like 65 pages into Meanwood by Nicola Griffith. So I'm gonna keep reading this. I also started reading Signs for Lost Children, and then I realised I'm not interested in reading it anymore, so I'm going to unhaul it. I feel like with this kind of thing, it makes me sad a bit because I think like sometimes you fall in love with the cover so much. Like I don't know exactly why I like this cover so much, but I really do. And then it makes me feel sad that like the book is not as like enjoyable to me as the cover is or something, or like I'd like to be the kind of reader that reads a book that looks like this, but like I'm not gonna enjoy it. So yeah, I'm just not sort of interested. Maybe it would get interesting, but yeah, from what I was reading at the beginning and then I kind of skipped through bits, and like I just think it's not really for me, or at least not for me anymore, you know? I also do have plans to read The House of Rust this month because I'm part of a little like feminist fantasy book club with some friends. I'm hoping to get to that. Also, like I have asked for the library to get it in, but it's literally been like a month. But they did tell me that like if it hasn't arrived by the 10th of May, then I need to like contact them again or something, but hopefully it will be here. Obviously there was some other stuff I said in my spring TBR video, and like I definitely would like to still get to some of those books, so hopefully I'll just be kind of working my way through. Also, I mean, I also kind of want to just like give myself some space to just like read for pure total pleasure with no agenda, at least maybe one book or something after this deadline. So we'll see what I choose there. I mean, I think I might pick a Yiddish translated book that I recently got. I talked about this in my last like at the end of my last vlog, but yeah, so I've ordered 3 books so far. 2 of them are Yiddish translations, 1 of them is not, but it is still like a Jewish connection. 2 of them have arrived, so I will open them right now. Oh no, only 1. Okay, well that's a bit disappointing. Well, I am excited to read this, but this is not the it's not either one of the Yiddish books that I want to get to. This is, so obviously I've been reading a lot of Natalia Ginsburg, and you know, she's interesting in for lots of reasons to me, obviously, or not obviously, but like because of her position like within kind of like anti-fascism within Italy, like both in terms of her work and also like her relationships and yeah, her family dynamics. I've not read very much Italian literature. She's like a great way in, I guess. She's also just like a woman writer from the 20th century, again, mid-20th century-ish into whatever. So that's interesting to me as well, just in a general kind of women in literature. I'm interested in that. She's also, you know, I read her in translation, so again, like I'm interested in translated work, which obviously is a very wide range of things. I guess what I mean by that is I'm interested in the process and practice of translation, and I care a lot about women, so I find that interesting as a lens to read books, because obviously like lots of people read books in translation, and it can be kind of silly to like fetishize the idea of like a translated work as a particular thing, when really that just kind of like solidifies the idea that like the normal language to read in is English, which means things written outside of that are like totally against the norm. Which isn't to say that like obviously I'm deeply grateful that things, as a monolingual person, like I am grateful that like I can still engage with, to some degree, like texts written not in the language that I speak. I totally lost what I was saying there, but anyway, this is all like a very big like introductory blab. The other aspect of Natalia Ginsburg, I should say, was like Jewish Italian history, like her like Jewish heritage or like lineage or whatever, which also made me more interested in learning more about Jewish Italians' experience during the Second World War and just living in Italy and generally, and just like whatever. And obviously I'm way more interested in like what women were saying and doing. So a woman who is a Jewish Italian is Elsa Morante. So I got this novel by her called Lies and Sorcery, translated by Jenny McPhee, who translated Family Lexicon that I read, which will be interesting to read. In fact, actually on the back of the blurb it actually says, it says, Elsa Morante is one of the titans of 20th century literature. Natalia Ginsburg said she was the writer of her own generation that she most admired. So this was, I think, written during the Second World War, and it follows 3 generations of women set in Sicily. I think it will be interesting. I saw this particular book because I actually was thinking I might read History, a novel by Elsa Morante next, which I think deals specifically with her experience during the Second World War, but then actually I'm not sure if I want to read that book, or at least maybe not for a little while. And then I was watching What Page Are You On, I think is the name of his booktube channel. I'll leave like a link in the cards and also the description box to the video. Is his name Nathan? Oh, I'm so sorry. But like I saw him like talking about the New York Review of Books, and also I think Penguin Modern Classics books he had, and this was one of them, and I think he was reading it or something, and so I was like, oh, that looks really interesting. And then I watched that video like one day before my deadline, and then I was like, ooh. But yeah, so it's like 700 pages. I also haven't read any Elena Ferrante, but I am aware that people often talk about Morante as the predecessor to her, and so, you know, that's sort of interesting. Like, I'm not specifically choosing not to read Elena Ferrante, like I just haven't sort of got to her yet. I do have My Brilliant Friend, which I will at some point read. I think it's in storage, so I don't think I have it with me, but yeah. Okay. That's sort of the little update. I am a bit sad that the Yiddish book that I thought was in that package was not there, but anyway, that's okay. I'll, update you when I have another update. Bye! Hi! So, I thought it would be time for a little update. Okay, so I guess there's some things I kind of wanted to like just briefly go over, I guess. Maybe first of all, I'll start with like a little actual reading update. So I read Siren Queen by Nevo. I read it in like 2 days. It's like, yeah, it doesn't take long to read. And I really enjoyed it. Like, this was great. And like, I'm having a kind of like film moment where I'm like really into like film and watching quite a lot of films. I mean, I have been like for a while, but like it's gotten more intense recently. So this was like perfect reading for that, because this is about film. It's about Hollywood, pre-code Hollywood, so like 1930s, early 1930s. It's about a young girl who is Chinese American, and she kind of gets like sucked into the world of Hollywood filmmaking glamour as like a teenager. And yeah, so I guess maybe from when she's 12 or something, and then we kind of follow her into her early adulthood. I think some parts of it were written beautifully. I also feel like you could definitely kind of feel like it was maybe a bit overwritten, a bit like just like sort of over ornate in a way, but I also feel like that was sort of a style choice. What's the word? Stylistic choice as a response to the kind of like glamour of Hollywood itself and the kind of glamour of the world. It's a historical fantasy book, so I think if you like your fantasy systems, or sort of, yeah, to be like very clear and like very like, okay, so this could happen and we know this and we know the parameters of the world, then you might not like this, because it is exceptionally mysterious, and there's sort of like a lot of points where you're suddenly like, oh, I guess that's the thing that could happen. I didn't know that. Okay. Literal pacts with the devil, and there is the sense of like fairylandness, which is both sort of real and also not real. Yeah, it's very playful around that, and it's very gay, and like, yeah, I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the sapphic element. I think also if you liked a book like 700 Spoons of Evelyn Hugo, and then have come to realise it's not a very good book for many reasons, I think maybe you would like this more. I certainly think it engages with more kind of compassion and complexity with like the racial, like the gendered and racial aspects of like Hollywood and filmmaking and the film industry. I didn't find any parts of it especially like triggering, but I would say that it has like this sense of, but like that's not to say there isn't violence in it, and it also has the sense of like threat, especially sexual threat, I think. kind of wending its way throughout. And yeah, so I would definitely recommend kind of caution and maybe looking up content warnings if you are concerned about that. I do think, and to some degree this is why maybe it doesn't work so well as a book, but I think that the main character, she manages to like constantly have her autonomy even within a system where she has to give it up, in a way that does feel very unrealistic, but I also kind of feel like that's okay. There's sort of like fantasy fulfillment to some degree. And so I also, you know, that was fine. There's also a like Jewish butch whose parents were like Polish communists, and she shows up and I loved her. But there's like a lot of great stuff. And yeah, again, I think like if you are enjoying or looking for some kind of just like very like fun pastiche Hollywood glamour kind of thing, then you should check this out. And yeah, I guess also like a major theme throughout it is this idea of monstrosity, and that's kind of explored in like multiple ways and as a kind of amalgamation of experiences and identities, like especially in terms of like sexual and racial otherness. So yeah, that was really enjoyable. Also, I love the cover. I was reading it public and yes, people were like looking at the cover very intensely, I felt. The other reading update is that I started reading The House of Rust, which is for an in-person little like feminist fantasy book club that we have. I suggested it because it won the Ursula K. Le Guin Prize for Fiction in 2022 and it just seemed really cute and like nice. It's also like a Grey Wolf Press book and it actually won the Grey Wolf Press African Fiction Prize. So actually this also maybe works for the like Grey Wolf, Grey in May reading thing that's going on, which is like a celebration of 50 years of Grey Wolf Press. So that's cool. I like just love this like little figure on the cover and like she's there again, which I really like. I love that design. Yeah, this is about a girl whose father is a fisherman and then one day he goes missing and it's like, oh, I'm like 70 or so pages in and I'm kind of hoping to read this like today and tomorrow maybe and then be done, partially because I need to get this back to the library so other people can read it. And then briefly I just wanted to kind of show you some books that I'm going to unhaul. I guess I'm going to offer this book to Mari to see if she wants it. This is How We Get Free, Black Feminism in the Combahee River Collective, edited by Kianga Yamata Taylor. I just started to feel like sad and uncomfortable about books that are like on my shelves that could be like enriching people's lives, and like this definitely was interesting, and like the introduction, I mean I read this many years ago but I do remember the introduction being really interesting, but it just sort of, yeah, it seems like such a shame to just like leave it on my shelf when it could be out in the world. You know, books are like circulatory objects and that's one of the like most wonderful things about them, so I don't want to get in the way of that, you know. And obviously I have like a lot of books and blah blah blah, but I think I might try to start, you know, thinking seriously about more of my books in that sense, or maybe not, but yeah, we'll see. But another book that I also kind of feel that like I'd like to like put it out into the world again is You Exist Too Much by Zaina Arafat. I have read this one fully. There's a couple reasons why I want to send it out into the world again. One of them is just that like I'm not going to reread it. I definitely know that about myself. I didn't enjoy it enough to reread it. I also found it very sad. I don't want to reread it. Like, so it seems silly to just keep it on my shelf again when somebody else could be reading it and enjoying it. It's about like a Palestinian American woman who's queer, kind of like coming to terms with her relationship with her mother and also like romantic relationships. And then another book that I also kind of want to keep but this is like a book I've had for a really long time. I started reading it to kind of check it out. It's a short story collection of like fairy tale retellings. Oh, this is New World Fairy Tales, sorry I should have said that, by Cassandra Parkin. And I didn't enjoy it at all, and like maybe I would have if I read it when I got it. So I'm gonna also send this out into the world as well and let somebody else enjoy it. Okay, I talked as fast as possible because I was trying to film this in under 10 minutes. So I'll see you later.
She did not know what would happen to her father.
Hi, here's a little reading update. Sorry for my hair looking messy, like I don't want to redo it, like I don't care. As part of my like having a nice time doing what I want, I kind of decided I want to try to read 7 books in 7 days. So definitely not happening. I started it on Thursday, today is Tuesday. I've read 3 books. One of them was Siren Queen, and I'm here to talk about the others. I think I think I could finish one more. Like, yeah, I've got one more day basically. I also wanted to say, yesterday I went to see Monkey Man with a friend. Like, it was like the final showing near where I live, and kind of near, it wasn't that near where I live, I guess, but and like I really loved it. Like, I don't like action films, I find them pretty boring, and like, you know, I think a lot of it's like gratuitous and stuff, and it was like exceptionally violent, but I loved it so much. Like, I really liked it as a spiritual story, like a story about faith too, and about like reclaiming spirituality from like fascism and capitalists. And yeah, it was just like very ACAB and great, and I love Dev Patel, so I really enjoyed it. And I actually kind of feel like the book that I read yesterday, or maybe the day before yesterday, The Lamb Will Slaughter the Lion by Margaret Killjoy, kind of has like similar vibes, because this is very much about like retributive justice, or like vengeance, and then like, yeah, interesting. And then also like how violence like impacts you and maybe changes you, and like is a kind of watershed moment in maybe your identity, and then also your like destiny, I guess. Thinking in terms of like storytelling and the kind of like trope of the vengeance film and book. But yeah, Monkey Man is a great film. So yeah, but this book is like a Lenel novella. It was one of the books I brought back from New York. And like, I don't think I read any in April, so it was good to read 2 so far in May, Siren Queen being another one of them. But yeah, so this is like the first in a little series. It's described as an anarcho-punk fantasy, which it is, and it's about Danielle, who goes in search of like her friend Clay, or like information about him, I guess, because she knows that he's died. He committed suicide, and she goes to where he had previously been living, like about 2 months before he killed himself. And it's like this utopian squatter town called Freedom, Iowa, and it's kind of about like what she finds there, and there's magic, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. Definitely punk. And then the other book I read, very different energy of both of these books, but this book was really wonderful too. This is The House of Rust by Khadija Abdullah Bajaba. Yeah, I read this for a book club, and it's about Aisha, whose like fisherman father goes missing, and kind of like what happens then. She like goes after him. It's like very much about gender, and I thought it was really fantastic. I mean, so it won the Ursula K. Le Guin Prize for Fiction, which meant I did find it hard not to think about Le Guin as I was reading it, but I can definitely understand why people read this and thought that it aligns with a lot of like Le Guinian kind of ideas about fantasy storytelling, like children, autonomy, and like equality, and I really enjoyed it. I think it was very strange, and like that was very delightful in lots of ways, and I guess I struggled a little bit with like the structure, and I felt sometimes it was quite vague, like what was happening. I struggled to like imagine exactly what was being said to me, but at the same time I thought it was like very richly written. There's like maybe a couple times when I felt like the prose kind of had like a hiccup in it, and was like it didn't manage to totally maintain itself the whole way through, but that was fine, like not, you know, to a massive degree. And yeah, I don't know, I kind of don't want to like talk about like the sort of major details of this, because I think it's like kind of fun to explore it. But there is a talking cat called Hamza, and it is quite like about faith and God, and then also about familial love as a kind of yoke on you, and the difficulties of like pushing against that. The main character Aisha, she has a lot of belief in herself, and she's very admirable in that sense, in like standing up for what she wants and thinks is like right. I definitely sort of also felt like, in the vein of kind of like quite angry girls, you know, this would be an interesting book, although very different tonally, to something like a Tiffany Aching series book. There's definitely quite a lot of like hard truths in it, and yeah, difficult and fraught relationships. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed sort of like the first 60%, maybe a bit more than the second section, just because of the structure. I think it didn't quite hold itself in the way I wanted it to, but at the same time that kind of also led me to enjoy the kind of mystery of the unfolding plot a bit more, whereas The first 60% is perhaps a bit more straightforward about like what might be happening or what is gonna happen. I'd really recommend this if it sounds something you're interested in. I hope I've like made it sound good. Like, I think more people should read this. It's quite bloody, and I guess like if you really dislike reading about like animals being harmed and stuff, then this is probably not the book for you. I didn't feel like it was like gratuitous. I felt like it was very a part of the story, and also part of like the grounding in, I mean, like Aisha's dad is a fisherman, so like, yeah. If you want to leave me a little emoji, you could leave a monkey or you could read like A Drop of Blood for the House of Rust, or a fish, I guess. Okay.
I'm going to be talking about the sort of